Good morning and welcome to Global Perspectives. From our home studios, I'm David Dumke.
And I'm Katie Coronado. Welcome.
Today we are joined by University of Central Florida Associate Vice President Natalie Chandia, who is in charge of UCF Global. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Natalie, welcome again. We know that times are much different than in the past when it comes to internationalizing the university, internationalizing classrooms. Can you talk to us about what is happening in that aspect and what you have seen change for the positive?
So I'm going to talk about pre-COVID because, of course, COVID-19 changed everything for international. So in the last few years, we've seen an increase in the number of students that are coming to the U.S. and also, if I talk locally, to UCF and Central Florida. This is because I think we're getting more interconnected. I think for faculty, for educators, it's very important to have a diversified um, student body. And I think if we think about the times we're living, we're all connected. So if you're in engineering, you're in medicine, you have to understand how other people think, how other people look at the same problem. So you want to have in your classroom a student from Spain, a student from India, a student from Saudi Arabia, because as we look at the challenges that as human beings that are facing us worldwide, we have to have minds that can share their different perspectives. So international education is very important, and it's very important for us in the US to expose our students to other cultures, other ways of thinking to prepare them for the global market.
How does a university such as UCF recruit international students and where are they coming from?
So most of our students come from China and India. That has been, especially at the grad level. We have great students that come with assistantships and scholarships. But lately, on the undergrad level, UCF has done a huge effort to recruit from Latin America and the Caribbean. This is through the Latin American Caribbean Scholarship, which allows students to pay in-state tuition. Um, for the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, this has been organic. So you have faculty that have other faculty across the world, and they have connections and they recruit students that way. Us at UCF Global, we've done different things. We've created a pathway where students can come learn English and at the same time take undergraduate courses, so it's easier for them to transition to the university. We've done other social media to recruit students, but mostly it's word of mouth. And also students like Central Florida. They know Disney World. So it's very easy to say, we're situated in Central Florida, where Disney, Universal, NASA. So students come that way. I don't think we've done a huge effort to recruit international students, but I think they just come because they know a faculty member, they know a student that had a great experience. They've come with their family on vacation prior, so they have some knowledge of the area.
Natalie, you mentioned the importance of knowing how other people think and knowing how the cultures differ, but also the similarities. When you talk about the English Language Institute, is that also something that you think you has helped you recruit students?
We try to recruit students, of course, from everywhere in the world. And we build a pathway because students need to understand our system. They get confused about how to apply our testing, SATs, GREs are not necessarily culturally sensitive. So you have to prepare them for those questions, for those situations, for everything. And we work with the students. So we try to provide almost a concierge service to the student. We pick them up at the airport, we welcome them, we teach them English. And as we teach them English, we incorporate them in the community of UCF. They go to football games, they go to soccer games. So, and they go to the rec center, and we try to make them part of UCF, to have that UCF community even before they join our program. So the English language program, it's a great program. I mean, if you don't speak English, zero English, by the time you're level 8, so in a year, you can go into a graduate program or to an undergraduate program.
I want to ask a little before we get back into what you're doing at UCF as well as international education overall. How'd you get into this sector?
That's an interesting story because before I came to UCF, I was working. I had great jobs, but I was working with mission work in the Dominican Republic for before that, and it was all surrounding education. So my job was to bring business people from Central Florida to the Dominican Republic and Haiti to work with the community to build projects around education and what was important to them. So, and I was having, it was, it was something I wanted to do, something I dream of doing. So mission work was always on my radar. After I did that for 6 years, they asked me to to go work in the north of Central Florida in De Leon Springs to work with a farm worker community. So, and I did everything: social work, education, funerals, immigration, everything. But at some point, I decided I needed to finish my education. I needed to finish my master's degree, and working 50, 60, 70 hours with the community would not allow me to do that. So I decided to look for a job in an educational institution, and I went to Daytona State, and I work with everything domestic students and international students because of my immigration background. Once I was there, they asked me to come work for UCF. UCF was going through a transition. They had gone through an audit, so their offices needed to be restructured. So they asked me to come, and I came in 2003, and I'm still at UCF. And it has been a great ride for me. I've always had opportunities to create new projects, and that's what I like. I always said I would come to UCF for a period of time and go back to mission work, which is where I always wanted to, my heart really is. But it has given me opportunities to help not only international students, but also the community with free English classes, with trying to help also migrant community members to help them navigate the educational system in the US and how do they get their sons and daughters into UCF.
You mentioned diversity as an important component of why international education is important, diversity on campus. Have you visibly watched UCF become more diverse over time? And does this mirror Central Florida itself becoming a more diverse community?
I think we've grown. When I first came, there was over 1,000 students, international students at UCF. If we look at the numbers today, even with COVID-19, we're at 2,500 students. So we've grown about 1,000 students in about 10 years, which is not keeping with our rate. We have 72,000 students. So ideally, you would have 10% of those students being international students. So I think we haven't grown as rapid as we should have, but we have grown consistently over time. One of the things we're changing is recruiting from other parts of the world, because as I said in the beginning, even now, if you look at grad students, you have China and India are top countries, Iran too, but South America is just right next to us, Central America, Mexico, and we haven't had done enough to recruit some of those students. So that's what we've been trying to do. It has grown over the last 3 years because we are offering the Latin American Caribbean scholarship to those students. But I think we can do a lot more. And I think we need to be we have to have budget, but we also need to think about how do we do this? Because when you talk about world and you talk about diversity, you have to have a plan. And every country is different and they value different things. The one thing in common they have is education. Everybody recognizes that education is a catalyst for a family, for a family member to go to the next level. We just have to figure out, how do we recruit those students as far as funding, as far as scholarships, what areas we want to recruit students to that are maybe lacking diversity. So we need to have a plan. And I think UCF is getting there where we've recognized that we haven't had a plan. So we need to come and create one.
Natalie, you said that the one thing that we have in common with every country is that, education is important, that education is something that we can use as a bridge perhaps. And in full disclosure, you were instrumental in the university allowing the trip to Cuba when we first took a group of journalism students there, because you supported it, you believed in it, and publicly I want to thank you for that. But how important do you think it is to use education in diplomacy and to help build bridges throughout the world?
I think if we think about the next generation or leaders, or even to think about peace, and I don't mean to oversimplify things, but if you can educate a world leader, a future world leader, in the same classroom with someone else from a different background, different religion, that maybe historically nations they didn't get along, but you give them that opportunity to learn about each other, they're probably going to find bonds and they're going to see that they have a lot in common. So maybe that will leader later will lead differently just because of that experience they had with that one student. I think it's so important that we expose our students to other ways of thinking. We have 72,000 students at UCF. We'll never be able to send them all abroad because most of our students are commuter students, so they can't afford it. They can't take time off from their jobs. They have to pay rent. Ideally, we would send them on study abroad, but we're not going to get to 72,000. So you need to bring those experiences here. And I think in addition to that, the faculty have to create those conversation and safe zones for them to talk about, even if you're talking about STEM fields, because maybe a student from China doesn't feel comfortable talking in the classroom because in their country that's disrespectful. So the faculty member has to be able to work with that environment, to work with those different backgrounds and create those type of dialogues in the classroom. So I think besides giving, that room for dialogue, our faculty have to be prepared and they have to be prepared with the curriculum. So if they're talking about, I don't know, in engineering, they're talking about building a bridge. Well, maybe we look at a bridge in India and a bridge in Brazil, and we look at, so you incorporate culture within the classroom. And I think that's so important because we can afford not to. We're very connected. COVID-19 has shown that even though we blocked borders, it kept spreading because people travel, people have family somewhere else. We have to prepare our students to be able to compete in the global market, and they can't compete if they're not culturally competent.
In the process of that competition that you mentioned, there is usually a transformation when it comes to people visiting different countries. Can you think of an example of a student? I'm sure you have a lot, but can you think of one example that really impacted you, of a student who you saw transformed in that process of globalizing while they came here to study or learn English, that you had the pleasure of meeting here at UCF?
So I can think a lot about examples, but one of the examples that strikes me all the time is at the English Language Institute, we bring a lot of Middle Eastern students. And historically, there are Middle Eastern countries that they just don't get along. And you take Saudi Arabia, perhaps when they were having a conflict with Qatar, or Saudi Arabia with Turkey, whatever it is, or Kuwait is with. But when it comes to the environment of our building, where we create, for example, a potluck, or we have coffee to talk about relationship, about dating, those students are talking and they become friends. And if they were back home, that will never happen because they have this vision of a Saudi student or of a Turkish student, or even females with males and the relationships. There's a lot there. When some of the females that come to the building, they won't talk to males because it's not permitted in their home country. By the time they're done with the 7 weeks, they have friends, they're talking, they share culture. I think, and I've seen that many times, and I think it's so inspiring for a student to be vulnerable enough to put themselves in those positions, but also to hear, even when they talk about dating, the differences between, what you do in South America, where probably here it would be harassment, But I think, there's those cultural norms that are ingrained in all of us as we grow up. But it could be insulting to somebody else, or it could be misunderstood or misjudged. But if you create those silos, and I think many friendships develop from those activities, which I think is inspiring.
You mentioned cultural competency, and you've also talked about, we live in a global environment that's very interdependent. How could business community play a constructive role in international education, supporting it?
We do some internships in local businesses, and they do hire some of our international students. And I think and given them those opportunities to actually go work with a company, I think it's great support, trying to understand, and also for the company to welcome that student in their environment and have them sit with someone else that maybe never seen someone from that country. I think they can support it. Besides that, we need funding. We don't have any scholarships for undergrad students, international students. I was just talking to, well, to undergrad, and we have this one student actually from Cuba who's already very hard to bring, excellent SAT scores, at perfect grades, but we don't have any scholarships. And it's probably, and another school does. So we're going to lose a student to USF, because they do have business people that support bringing students here. So raising money, I think, is important, and building those criteria of what are we looking for? Are we looking for diversity? So we have a lot of students from China and India. Maybe we need to bring more students from Cuba, Mexico, from Peru, from Chile, from other places. But I think the business community would be key in helping us, but also talking to us, what type of talent do they need? Because an international student has a year after they graduate to work in the United States. After that, they have to go home. So can they provide those opportunities, and what's the criteria? How many are they willing to support? And I think that's important.
Natalie, you mentioned the importance and you touched a little bit about how the business community could benefit. Based on your expertise, you've done this for a while here and know the interest of the student and know how the student can benefit the business community. And you mentioned funding, so potential donors. If you had a chance to speak with the business community, and we get a national audience as well here, what would you say an international student or these students who you work with directly would bring to the table to businesses and organizations that scholarships would help fund and provide opportunities? What would you say directly to that business community or potential donors for these students who you work with?
I think, providing opportunities for students that are brilliant. And we had, and I went to a conference like about 3 years ago, and there was this story of a student and he was from Honduras and very poor. And he just picked up garbage and he put together a computer. And so he was picked up by Harvard and by other universities because it was such an inspiring story. I mean, this is a kid that lived in the streets, and he never went to school, but he picked up pieces and put a computer together. There was community organizations that were helping him to take the SAT, to do all these things, but they gave him a full scholarship. I think for the Central Florida community, we need to recognize those things. I think, when we look for international students, we always think of money. So we think, okay, they can pay out of state tuition, it's going to infuse money to the economy, which is very important. And we have those students, but then you also have those other students. They just need one opportunity to be able to come here and interact with our students, because wouldn't it be great for our students to see the resourcefulness of other people? Like if you go to Cuba, you went to Cuba, they fix cars that are from, 30 years ago, 50 years, they make them run. In Brazil, they make cars run with all types of oil. I think it's gasoline, oil, all types of other things that we would never think of using. I think trying to bring the knowledge, the expertise, the experiences, it will enrich not only the community, but also will make us stronger because we will have the infusion of those minds and also helping our students because our students have a lot. They have everything. They have everything there. I'm not saying all of them, but the vast majority of them, they don't have that resourcefulness of if you have nothing, so how do you create something from nothing? So I think it's so important to bring that to us. And let me talk about COVID-19. So COVID-19 also brought a different challenge to us because businesses everywhere in the world were shutting down. So we had students here from Iran that actually can't go back home because if they go back home, they won't get a visa to come back and they can't afford it. So they're stuck here for 5 years without seeing their parents. Well, they couldn't get money, UCF didn't have money. So we had to help them pay rent. We had to pay for food. So there was a lot of students that didn't have food. Well, last year during COVID-19. So I think there's a lot to do, even to keep and retain the students that are already here. So if we can partner with community and businesses, I think they will find that it's not only a rewarding experience for everyone, but they could actually help our economy and help advance in technology and just, knowledge.
Immigration has been a subject of heated political debate for some time in the United States, and you have periodic attempts to crack down on immigration. And the rhetoric sometimes can get quite heated and, in many cases, hostile to nationals of certain countries. How has that impacted your ability to recruit international students? Just kind of a climate that's perceived as anti-immigrant.
I think, especially last year when there was a lot of attempts to block certain countries from coming. We hear from the parents, there's lots of fears. The image of the United States outside is that we're not friendly, we're not welcoming them. You take countries like Canada, Australia, that are great in recruiting students because they don't have this change in environment because the student comes and they have so many policies and that they have to follow to stay in status. So they can't work more than 20 hours. They can't, there's so many things they can't do. And it adds so much stress to their lives because let's say they can get a speeding ticket, that's a misdemeanor that could affect their status. So there's so much pressure. So on top of that, then you add that, in our government, when they decide to block a country, what happens to the students that are here? Could they leave? We had a lot of stress last year from students because of the change in immigration policies and the ability to stay in the country. So a lot of students felt like, well, if I just go to Canada, I don't have to worry about that. So I think our image right now, it's not the best, but I also think that almost every person you talk to when you travel, they want to make it to the United States. They want to come and see the US and everything they've seen in movies. So I think we're still very attractive, but it's stressful for them and it's scary for them. So I think, and if we look at the benefits of international students, just to the economy, you're talking about Florida has 46,000, and this is from before COVID, 46,000 students attending universities here. That's an infusion of millions of dollars to the economy. And I don't have the exact numbers, but I think, just the benefits they bring, it's just to me, it's just added stress that these students shouldn't have. I mean, we're bringing these students for a reason. We're bringing the students to do research and for us to be diverse, but also to advance our own footprint in the world when it comes to brilliant discoveries and to really answer the challenges of human beings right now. So I think we shoot ourselves in the foot every time we change immigration because we lose a lot of students.
Natalie, we have about a 1 minute left. So I want to ask you how you see the future of international education and maybe the integration of online learning with that.
So online learning has we've been able to keep students because they're engaging online. But I can tell you the students want the experience to be here. So I think you're still going to have this infusion of students coming here. We have to make a huge effort to send our students out of the country. You have students in Florida that have never left Florida. And if you can't, and that's unimaginable to me because they have to be exposed to other ways of thinking and also other ways of living. And it's, I think for them it's almost like a job skill they have to have in order to be successful in their field in the future. So we have to do a lot more. So um so if I could ask one thing is having these conversations to advance the international agenda in international education in general.
Natalie Chandia, we wish you the best of luck as you continue growing the international student presence at UCF. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week on another episode of Global Perspectives.